From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report in Special English. Sometimes simple actions taken at the right time can do a lot of good. A new report says more than 800,000 babies could be saved each year if all mothers begin breastfeeding within the first hour after giving birth. Save the Children released the report. It calls breastfeeding one of the best ways to prevent malnutrition. Hunger is a major killer of children under the age of 5. Carolyn Miles is head of Save the Children. She explains that getting mothers to start breastfeeding can sometimes be the hardest part. The first milk from mothers is called colostrum. This is a highly nutritious form of breast milk. Colostrum helps build the baby's immune system and works best in the first hours after a mother gives birth. Colostrum is yellowish, sticky breast milk. The World Health Organization calls it the perfect food for the newborn. Save the Children describes it as a child's first immunization. But Carolyn Miles says in some cultures there is a mistaken belief that colostrum is dangerous. She says mothers in a lot of places around the world throw away the colostrum. The World Health Organization says mothers should feed their babies only breast milk for the first 6 months. Carolyn Miles says babies do not need anything else. After 6 months, the WHO says breastfeeding should continue along with other foods up to 2 years of age or beyond. The Save the Children report, called Superfood for Babies, examined barriers to breastfeeding. These include cultural beliefs, as well as a shortage of health workers in developing countries. Carolyn Miles says health workers with basic knowledge can help mothers start and continue to breastfeed. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
From VOA Learning English, we bring you health news in Special English. UNICEF says the recent conflict in the Central African Republic has affected 1.8 million people. The United Nations Children's Fund says children make up half of the 800,000 people in urgent need of humanitarian aid. Rebel groups rose up against President Francois Bozizé in December. The Salika Rebel Coalition signed a peace deal with the president in January. A UNICEF spokeswoman says some of the hardest hit towns remain under rebel control. She says major risks for children include sexual violence and being recruited into armed groups. UNICEF says 8% of young children in the Central African Republic suffer from moderate acute malnutrition. 2% suffer from severe cases of hunger, yet basic services are hard to find. The agency says that in areas affected by conflict, fewer than half of the children attend school. UNICEF says the rebels and pro-government militias are recruiting children as soldiers. The group says it aims to bring aid to more communities to help families displaced by the crisis in the Central African Republic. Globally, UNICEF is appealing for $1.4 billion this year to meet the urgent needs of tens of millions of children in 45 countries and regions. The children are threatened by conflict, natural disasters, and other emergencies. In two areas of increasing conflict, the situation is especially threatening for children. In Syria, about 2.5 million people need assistance, and UNICEF says more than half of them are children. And a UNICEF official says that in Mali, children in the north are displaced, out of school, and at risk of being drawn into armed groups. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman. From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report in Special English. Women who took folic acid in early pregnancy were less likely to have a child with autism than other women in a recent study. Folic acid is a B vitamin that helps the body build and repair cells. The study, however, did not prove that folic acid can prevent childhood autism. Children with autism have problems communicating and socializing with other people. Researchers at the Norwegian Institute of Public Health looked at records of more than 85,000 children born between 2002 and 2008. The study asked mothers to describe their diets and any vitamin supplements they took before and during their pregnancies. Research leader Paul Surin and his colleagues compared the women who took folic acid supplements to those who did not. He says the women who took folic acid in early pregnancy had a 40% reduction in the risk of having a child with autism. He says the best time to take folic acid is from 4 weeks before to 8 weeks after the start of pregnancy. The researchers found that taking folic acid halfway through pregnancy had no effect. The cause of autism is not known. Several genes may be involved in the disorder. Folic acid has been linked to the development of a protective covering called the neural tube in a fetus. Women who did not get enough folic acid are at risk of giving birth to infants with part of their spinal cord or brain exposed. This disabling condition is called spina bifida. Dark leafy vegetables, asparagus, broccoli, and citrus fruit are rich sources of folate. Folate is the naturally occurring form of folic acid. Folate is also found in peas, lentils, beans, eggs, yeast, and liver. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.
From VOA Learning English, welcome to Health in Special English. There is more evidence suggesting that being bilingual is good for your brain. A new study found that older adults who have spoken 2 languages since childhood showed better mental skills than those who speak just 1 language. Earlier studies showed that the ability to speak 2 languages, or bilingualism, seemed to favor the development of these heightened skills. The study appeared in the Journal of Neuroscience. Brian Gold was the lead author of the study. He is a neuroscientist at the University of Kentucky, College of Medicine. Dr. Gold and his team asked people to sort colors and shapes in a series of simple exercises. They used brain imaging to compare how well 3 groups of people switched among these exercises. The groups were bilingual seniors, monolingual seniors, and younger adults. The imaging showed different patterns of activity in the frontal part of the brain, in an area used for processing those tasks. Dr. Gold says the results suggest that bilingual subjects use their brain more efficiently. Dr. Gold notes that knowing a second language made no difference for the young adults. They did better at the exercises than both groups of older people. But he says the older bilingual adults appear to have built up a surplus from a lifetime of increased mental activity. He says his research confirms an earlier study on bilingualism among patients with Alzheimer's disease. That study showed that bilingual speakers suffered more brain damage, but were able to think at the same level as patients with less damage. Dr. Gold says he believes the new study confirms that bilingualism can protect brain performance. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.